Hello everyone, welcome back to Virgo Sewing, and we are continuing today by removing the shuttle hook assembly, and then we're going to try and take off the gearbox, and after that I think we're just going to start doing a cleaning of all the mechanisms that are inside this machine. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to talk less this time, and I'm just going to go ahead and try to take apart everything as quickly as possible. Alright, so after much disassembly and sort of tinkering, I finally sort of gotten access to this gear here, and I basically had to detach everything from this lower shaft and unscrew all the little points here and sort of push out this main shaft. I did it in a little bit of an aggressive way, but it works just fine. So now we have access to this gear, which is quite dirty. So now I'm just going to clean the gear, starting with just some Q-tips to get all the obvious grime off, and then I'm going to see about cautiously putting on some alcohol, and we'll go from there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a screwdriver that fits into this slot, and I'm going to manually sort of clear out all the gunk that's in between the teeth of these gears. And it's a little time consuming, but it's going to work. And a lot of people like to use kerosene for cleaning out gears, which is great, but I'm working inside and it's very cold outside. I don't have the option to go out, so I'm just gonna have to do it sort of more manually here. But the results will be fine, and after I'm gonna clean it up, finish it off with a little bit of alcohol, and that will do us well. Now I'm using some alcohol and I'm going to clean the outside of the gear, like this. And what I'm using is denatured alcohol, which is some really strong stuff that usually I use for stripping old shellac off the machine when I'm going to refinish the machine, but it's just a really nice strong alcohol that cleans a lot of gunk away, better than rubbing alcohol. And it seems like the dirt on the outside of the gear is really badly gunked up. So I'm going to take a bit of Scotch-Brite pad with a bit of alcohol, and I find that that really just will sort of scrape everything away. And I would not use this on plated metal parts because it can actually scratch it, but on this tougher non-plated steel, I find that it works wonders. Now I'm going to pour a tiny bit of this alcohol onto the gears so I can get into the teeth inside and sort of soften that old junk. And it's really important that you don't let the alcohol get onto the main sort of visible body of the machine, because that will dissolve the clear coat. But for things like this, for cleaning out the gears and things like that, I find that it works really well to just get all that gunk off. Now I'm just going to clean up the bit that's on the mat here, just to be safe. And now I'm going to continue with the screwdriver, now that gunk has been done with alcohol. So now I'm very satisfied with how clean this gear is. I mean, it's not like 100%, but it's really, it's in great condition now to be greased and working for, God, I don't know, another 60 years. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and start cleaning the internal parts that we're not going to remove off of the machine because they have old varnished oil, and while I have all my things out here, I might as well give it a go and get them looking very nice. So I'm first just going to try using alcohol on a Q-tip and see where that gets me. And you know what? That's actually getting off all of that gunk, and it's bringing up the silver in a very nice way. So we don't need to be too abrasive, at least on this shaft. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep working with the denatured alcohol and slowly and surely bring back the shaft. And you can really see, like, look at the difference between this part of the metal and this part of the metal where the old oil hasn't been cleaned off yet. And it just really looks really nice and shiny. And so I found it easier working with this cloth. I can get a really big area of cleaning. And I'm just going to keep going around on this shaft. Okay, so now I'm pretty satisfied with how the underside mechanisms have turned out. Everything's looking really clean, really nice, and I didn't have to use any of this Scotch-Brite pad, which I'm really happy, because on these nice shiny looking bars here that can actually cause a bit of scratching, so I like to avoid that when I can. I really would only use it on these parts that aren't plated, but I didn't even have to. The denatured alcohol with the rag and the Q-tips really got everything that needed to sort of be cleaned. And what I'm going to do now, before I disassemble, or rather reassemble, any of this, I'm going to just put a light coating of oil on everything down here, because when you sort of use alcohol to clean these metal parts, it evaporates and it really dries out the metal and it leaves it, just very dry. And you want the metal to stay healthy and sort of hydrated, if you will. The way I like to think about it is putting oil on your metal is kind of like moisturizing your hands. It just keeps them nice and hydrated and healthy and smooth. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a bit of oil on all these parts and just sort of work it in with my fingers. And it really just needs a very light coating, so you can drop a few drops and just spread it around like I'm doing now. And that also gives it a nice bit of shine and just keeps it nice and sealed, and that will protect it from rust. So it's just a really good idea after you've done cleaning everything. Oh, and you always want to double check everywhere, because look, inside the gear protector for this gear here, not the one we cleaned but the other one, there's a little bit of gunk inside of the casing, so you can never really be too careful. While I have this gear out all nice and exposed from when I just cleaned it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grease it with Tri-Flow clear synthetic grease before we put it back into its box, where it will wait until the other gear is reinserted. And I really would not recommend white lithium grease or any type of lithium grease, which is what a lot of people do, because it sort of it has a melting point, and if it doesn't get that heat, eventually it will harden over time. And I was chatting online on a post with someone who worked in a Janome factory, and apparently they tell their technicians to use lithium grease because it's easy to find and it's less expensive, much less expensive than Tri-Flow. Tri-Flow is a little harder to find. I have to order it online, and it's pretty expensive, relatively. But really, you really shouldn't be using lithium grease. It's not really good for long-term use. I've had to clear out gears that have been greased lithium grease quite a few times, and if they're left in there for a few decades or so, which often happens with gear grease, it can bind up the machine, and you really just have to soften it up and clear it out, and it's really not good for your machine. So Tri-Flow is by far the best grease out there. So if you can get your hands on a tube of Tri-Flow, that's very well recommended. And the Tri-Flow oil, Tri-Flow Superior Lubricant it's called, is really, really great sewing machine oil. It's very powerful. It is incredible for freeing up seasoned machines. It's very, very safe. It cleans at the same time as it lubricates. It's really one of a kind sort of lubricant. I don't think that there's anything else comparable out there. So our gear looks nice and greased. I have a bit too much on some parts, which I'm just going to clear off. You don't need that much grease at all, really, but just for good measure, and because the grease is protected in here where it won't spin out onto anything else, that's a good amount, and I'm gonna put it in there. And I think it's set well. So now I'm going to go and just have a look at my other video as to how I disassembled everything, just so I can save a little bit of time when reassembling. So I'll see you in a few moments, and we will put everything back together. Okay, so we have finished cleaning and reassembling the other side. That took quite a while. Now I just want to open up this stitch length adjuster and see what's causing problems, because I was just trying to adjust the stitch length. Oh, actually, silly me. This is the issue here. The issue that I was just having was my feed dog sort of carrier was adjusted too high, and it was hitting against the body of the bed rather. So I'm gonna have to fully adjust it once the feed dogs and the needle plate are back in. But just for now, I've just set it low enough that I can sort of move the machine freely, and yeah, and it's working just fine now. And so this is a knob which allows you to sort of lock in your stitch length, and the more you loosen it, the more control you have over your feed dog. Sorry, your stitch length. And that's what was confusing me at first. But right now I'm just going to open this up and see what kind of cleaning and oiling this part needs. And it's also nice to have this off because we can clean it and polish it, and that will give the machine a really nice look. And I'm now noticing that these bits here are loose. I didn't put these two back on quite well enough, so I'm just going to do that quickly. It's always good to find out these things before, as you're sort of cleaning, better sooner than later. There we go. And that should keep everything in nice and solid. There we go. Now it doesn't move back and forth. That's what we want. So I'm just going to oil all the parts I can see that have to do with this feed dog lever. And it's really just a matter of looking inside here at where metal is moving on metal. It's really as simple as that. People talk about that a lot with sewing machines, and it's really very true. Nothing much to it. And that is moving a lot smoother now. And I'm just giving everything just a little bit more oil. Some parts, I probably touched them so much that they don't have as much oil as they did when I coated them. So I'm just giving everything a bit of oil, and that will do the machine good. The only thing you have to watch out for with over-oiling is that the oil doesn't sort of go everywhere or get onto your fabric. That happens a lot, but at this point, when we're sort of reviving the machine, you can't go wrong with too much oil. There we go. And that's moving nicely. That looks like a tiny bit of a dead bug. Definitely something that we do not want in our sewing machine. So that will conclude this part of the video. And next time we are going to clean the body of the machine. And once the body is clean, we will clean all of the other parts that I have out here and slowly reassemble the machine. And once it's reassembled, we're going to do the adjustments such as the feed dog height and the hook timing, and we're going to make sure that the needle bar is going down in the right places. So stay tuned.